things are moving fast. I've been on this YouTube for a little while now, and in all my videos, I've tried my best to be as honest and as forthcoming as possible. You'll see some people who it's in their interest to have people come over to the country, come over to Gambia, come over to wherever they are, and I'll only tell you the positives. There's other people also talking about Africa as well, come to Africa, having that come to Africa conversation. There's this man here. Now this man has a very unassuming aesthetic about him. He usually wears a flat cap like the guys in Peaky Blinders. And he has spent a lot of time putting out a lot of good game about the merits of moving to West Africa, particularly Nigeria. He speaks about how far your money will stretch as an American. He speaks about the type of the type of buildings, the type of building materials used in building houses, how they're better here in West Africa than they are over in America. He will speak about how much wealth there is in the ground, opportunities around business, and so on and so forth. Although he doesn't say, "Hey, white people, come over to West Africa," the fact that it's him doing it, we know it will speak more to that set of people. Now, even though the language has changed, the mindset has not. The mindset has not changed. There was a document written. It was a papal bull, that was written, I think in 1465. There's 14 something 5, so it's either 1465, 1455, 1445, something like that. But it's a 15th century, long time ago. And this paper bull was called the Doctrine of Discovery. Basically what it said was,
"With the authority of the Almighty God, we give, grant, and assign in perpetuity to you and your heirs all the islands and the mainlands found and to be found, discovered and to be discovered in the west and south, with all their dominions, cities, castles, towns, and villages."
Look, we are white, we are Christian, and as such we have a God-given right to own anything that we discover on this planet outside of Europe. That doctrine of discovery was what was used as a moral license for these people to come over to Africa and completely destroy the place. Completely destroy the place. This doctrine of discovery hasn't stopped. It's been going on for eons, and yet still the doctrine of discovery is something that is being pushed now, today. So we have this man here. I can't remember his name. It's something Prince. He's the CEO, I believe, of Blackwater. Blackwater is a military mercenary company that goes out and does the dirty deeds for America, Europe, and so on and so forth. He does their dirty work.
All this talk of illegal migration
have listened to what he has
in
to
Europe, in the United States, it ultimately comes down to a contest of what is governance. Who is governed? Which countries are governed well? And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making their country better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Erik Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes. Enough. Because If you go to these countries and you see how they suffer under absolutely corrupt, made-up governments that are just criminal syndicates.
Made-up governments.
The people of Africa, the people of Latin America, a lot of them deserve better. Now,
so this man Prince has a vested interest in being able to get out his big guns and shoot up a bunch of people and take the land of indigenous people here in Africa. He's using that same doctrine of discovery kind of mindset to say it's time for us to put back on our imperial hats. Like it's ever been taken off. You know, when the British and the French, the Portuguese and all the rest of them from Europe were meeting up in Berlin to have the Berlin Conference, basically to decide a peace treaty where they can work in collaboration with each other in order to take over and destroy the kingdoms that were in place at the time in Africa. The way people lived in Africa was very different to how they live now. They were going to use that doctrine of discovery to start with Christianity. Teach people about giving up their own moral code and instead replace it with something that they would dictate.
Letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to colonial missionaries, 1883. Reverends, fathers, and dear compatriots, the task that is given to fulfill is very delicate and requires much tact. You will go certainly to evangelize, but your evangelization must inspire above all Belgium interests. Your principal objective in our mission in the Congo is never to teach niggers to know God. This they know already. They speak and submit to a Mungu, one in Nzambi, one in Nzakomba, and what else I don't know. They know that to kill, to sleep with someone else's wife, to lie and to insult is bad. Have courage to admit it. You are not going to teach them what they know already. Your essential role is to facilitate the task of administrators and industrials, which means you will go to interpret the gospel in the way it will be the best to protect your interests in that part of the world. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends, who is the father of their soul. You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach students to read and not to reason. There, dear patriots, are some of the principles that you must apply. You will find many other books which will be given to you at the end of this conference. Evangelize them so that they stay forever in submission to the white colonialists.
These murderous people over in Belgium are selling chocolate hands to this day. So, whereas Leopold would go to Belgium and expect people to like farm rubber from the rubber trees here in Congo. And if they don't farm enough, you cut their hands off. So then the Belgians, they don't see that like it's a bad thing. They celebrate it to this day by selling chocolate hands to this day. So people here in the people from the West love murderation, love killing, love pillaging. You think things are bad in Africa now? Wait until these people that have been saying come over to Africa get their way with their people coming over to Africa. This is what they're importing. This is the mindset they're importing with them traveling and staying over in Africa. See if this isn't even worse.
Gentleman wanted a person brought to him that he could eat. Physically.
That was Justin Ben Singh, who also, according to this warrant, planned to kidnap a child and make her drink her own to get him off.
You want to talk about the depravity of humanity? Look at these people.
People like Assam Batros.
He took an erectile dysfunction pill before he got there. And then he injected himself with testosterone into...
All while thinking he was meeting a 14-year-old, like many of the people who knocked at this door.
You're good. You're good, brother.
During the course of the investigation, a lot of people admitted that they knowingly had diseases. And they were willing to have sex with a 14-year-old.
So now here we are. It's 2024. People from South Africa to East Africa to here in West Africa have been telling you, come to Africa. And while you've been umming and ahhing and twiddling your thumbs and thinking about it and so on and so forth, people like Prince are saying, yo, we're going to get back at our empire game because these African people are just about looting and pillaging these African people. Knowing full well that looting and pillaging is a European mindset. They've been doing it from years. From 14-something-5. They've been doing this for years. They've been pillaging this continent, looting this continent. Down to today, they are looting this continent. We have people who look like you, look like me, who are up to their chest in mud, mining for cobalt, mining for titanium and so on and so forth in countries like the Congo. When England was 60 years old, or when America was 60 years old, have a look and see what was going on over there. Over there then, it was anarchy. It was just anarchy. People were not able to have simple conversations about ownership of land and so on and so forth. It was gunshot. The gun ruled everything. There are people who are famous today, like Billy the Kid, like Dick Turpin, who were so murderous that they became legendary. And still to this day, people will talk about how great they are. So you've got to give Africa its props for being such a peaceful country. People here, they don't have an education to the level that they have in the West. So we in our Western mindset can look down and be, you can't even read and write. So what? In the West, we're taught how to read. We're taught how to write. We're taught how to count numbers. But they're only taught those things in order that we can get a job and then work for somebody who's got a company. We're not taught how to compare mortgage rates. We're not taught about buying stocks and shares, the difference between a bond and a share. We don't know the difference. We don't know. I don't even know what I don't know. There's so much that we're unaware of, that we're totally illiterate when it comes to this money thing. It took me when I was like 19, 20 years old to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know the difference between an asset and a liability. I knew there was such thing as, I knew what the word asset meant, I knew what the word liability meant, but I didn't know that a liability could be a house. No, I was taught when you're succeeding, when you're doing well, you buy a house. So we're being taught BS constantly. And we think we're doing so much better than the people here in West Africa, and we're not. We are suffering they're suffering the same nonsense here as they are suffering in Africa. That needs to change. That needs to change. And the change starts with you.